morning and welcome to the morning show on APAM Television. This is the Governance and Political Digest. I am your host. My name is Josephine Echan Dramina. The aim of this program is to educate the ordinary citizen on governance and politics as it ought to be and not as it pertains in our society currently. We aim at getting you to participate in the governance and political decision-making process of our nation, Ghana. What currently pertains in our society is that most of us are not interested in politics and governance. And on this program, we are going to teach you and get you to understand why and how you should get interested in politics and governance in our nation. On today's episode, we are going to talk about some influential African leaders of the 20th and 21st century. These leaders were chosen because they took a stance in gaining and leading their nations to independence. Some of these leaders started well, but their story ended badly, as we would see on today's show. First of all, we would want to learn about who a leader is. Who is a leader? And what is leadership? When we talk about leadership, what are we trying to say? Our definition for the purpose of this program is a leader is a person who influences a particular society or group of people towards the attainment of a set goal. There are three elements here when it comes to leadership. One, there's a person. Two, there's a goal. And three, there's a society or a people. So leadership involves influencing a society or a people towards the attainment of a goal. And the goal can be a positive goal or a negative goal. How does leadership come about? On the last episode of this program, we learned that we have constitutional means through which someone can become a leader. For the purposes of our show today, we have elections. We also have hereditary process through which someone can ascend to the throne. It pertains in monarchies. And we also have usurpation, where people come to power through military takeovers. What are the qualities of a leader? Why would we say someone is a leader? Apart from the influence the person is exerting on a society, what else makes a leader a leader? One quality of a good leader is empathy. A leader is able to sympathize and empathize with his followers. A leader understands the needs of his followers and takes steps towards addressing those needs. Through empathy, a leader is able to find solutions to problems that exist in society. One other quality of a great leader is that they also delegate. A leader is not someone who exists or lives his life as an island. There's a saying that no man is an island, and to be a good leader, you should learn how to delegate. You delegate roles to people. And one thing that makes one an outstanding leader is that when they delegate, they are trying to tell the people that they want to involve them in their leadership process. One other quality of a great leader also is that leader listens to his people. He listens to his followers and involves them in taking decisions. On the African continent, we've had several leaders come and go. And for Africa, we normally tell a story about our leaders, and we call them founding fathers of Africa. For us, we hold some of these founding fathers in high esteem. What did these founding leaders do to attain such a position in the history of their nation? Leadership is about influence, as we have learned. A leader who cannot influence cannot be said to be a leader. Influencing people too can be done in the negative and the positive way. For us in Africa, we've had some leaders who came to influence in a positive way and some leaders who influence negatively. We also have stories of leaders who started on a positive note but ended negatively. What we can learn about leadership is that leadership is about influence. It's about leading people towards the attainment of a particular goal. For Africa, we had leaders who led our nations, there are various nations, to attain independence. But in the process, they became power drunk and ended up as autocratic leaders. Lord Atkin, a 20th century historian and politician, had this to say about power. He said, "Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely." Great men are almost always bad men. What was he trying to say? He meant that as a person's power increases, their moral sense also diminishes. So when power is concentrated in the hands of one person, the person ends up becoming autocratic. So in our constitutional democracies now, in order to ensure that our leaders do not become autocratic, we have mechanisms that are put in place to ensure that the powers of these leaders are checked. We have the doctrine of checks and balances. This is the Governance and Political Digest, and on today's show, we are talking about some influential African leaders of the 20th and early 21st century. For us in Ghana, we just recently celebrated a national holiday dubbed as the Founders' Day. And for us, we have Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as our founder. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was born on 21st September 1909 at Nkrofo in the Western region. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah led Ghana to attain independence on the 6th of March 1957. His father was a goldsmith and his mother was a retail trader. He had the opportunity to school in Catholic schools, and after completing his elementary school, advanced to Achimota. Upon completion of Achimota School in the year 1930, he began work as a people teacher in schools at Elmina and Axim. He further moved to the United States to study at Lincoln University and other Pennsylvania University. In 1939, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah moved to the United Kingdom to pursue law, but in the process abandoned the study. He studied the literature of socialism and Marxism, and he was an ardent follower of Karl Marx. He immersed himself in political work whilst in the United Kingdom and helped to organize the 5th Pan-African Conference in 1945. He was helped by his able friend, Jomo Kenyatta, who later led Kenya to independence. Stay tuned and let's have a documentary on Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Ghana, we now have freedom.
Africa wants freedom. Africa must be free.
Oracles indicated that Kwame Nkrumah was a devil.
Mr. President, there is a coup.
I've never seen such an explosion of joy.
Accra, Ghana's capital city and the largest, walked a great man. Developmental strides, like the building of the Tema Township, the Accra-Tema Motorway, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the Great Akosombo Dam, and of course, his key role in the formation of the Organization of African Union. With Kwame Nkrumah, beyond the borders of Ghana, he is hailed for his achievements.
This decade is the decade of African independence. Forward then to independence. To independence now. Tomorrow, the United States of Africa.
To him, African Union was a passion, and I think he's right. Look at what is happening in Africa now. Congo, the richest country, what is there now? Warlords all over with this private enterprise from outside. They do what they like. I mean, and look at what is happening in all Africa. He foresaw that if we didn't come together, we would be in our present state.
Dr. K.B. Asante was the Secretary of State during Kwame Nkrumah's rule. He recounts Nkrumah's character.
He could be charming when he wanted to, but normally, as someone who worked with him, he was what I would call a charming, hard taskmaster.
He was a good dancer, and he liked music, yes. And we would hear music. But I remember high life music around us.
His smile was infectious.
Perhaps you didn't hear what I said.
That was the charm of Nkrumah, a man who was very committed to Africa. Nkrumah lived and died Africa.
In September of 1909, in a village in the Gold Coast, as Ghana was called then before independence, a son was born. Francis Newyer Kofi Ngonioma, to his father a goldsmith, and his mother a retail trader. This name later changed to Kwame Nkrumah. Nkrumah was educated at the prestigious Achimota College in 1930 and thereafter became a teacher.
Nkrumah was a very ordinary human being. He was human like all of us. He was born in a very small, tiny village in the western region of Ghana. He had his education, Catholic education, went to a Achimota school, initially wanted to be a Catholic priest, and eventually taught in the Achimota school, which was the most prestigious high school under the colonial rule.
At the age of 26, Nkrumah left the Gold Coast to study at Lincoln University in the USA. He read widely from the literature of Karl Marx and Marcus Garvey. And from then on, ideals of socialism became appealing to him.
Nkrumah was very much inspired by Marcus Garvey and the whole idea of return to Africa and black freedom. That inspired him a lot too. So he knew about all those things. That would have fueled his ideas for a kind of Pan-African consciousness and the need to rally a wide range of people in pursuit of what he wanted.
In the United States of America, he came across, writings of George Padmore and co, who were in the Pan-African movement, W.E. Du Bois and all. And eventually in 1945, he linked up with them in Manchester, United Kingdom, where they organized the 5th Pan-African Congress. And they decided to accelerate the struggle for liberation of Africa.
As men of thought and action, they exerted great influence on the young Nkrumah. His ideas for the unity of all Africans later came to be known as Pan-Africanism. In his book, I Speak of Freedom, Nkrumah wrote, "Divided we are weak, united Africa could become one of the greatest forces for good in the world. After 12 years of being away from the colony, Nkrumah was invited to become the Secretary General of the first ever political party in the Gold Coast.
This is a documentary we just watched on Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the founding father of Ghana and the first president of independent Ghana. In 1947, upon the formation of the UGCC, that is the United Gold Coast Convention, Kwame Nkrumah was invited by Dr. J.B. Dankwa to come and act as its treasurer. So, in the late 1947, Kwame Nkrumah arrived in Ghana and took on the leadership of the UGCC as its treasurer. But as time would have it, Kwame Nkrumah ended up becoming the general secretary of this party. The focus of the United Gold Coast Convention was to attain independence within the shortest possible time. As time went on, there were differences between the leadership of the UGCC and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah was a radical. He was a radical. Whilst most of the leaders of the United Gold Coast Convention were calm and always wanted to use appropriate means, as they would call it, for independence. The UGCC primarily was made up of elitists, which included lawyers, public servants, and doctors. But Kwame Nkrumah was a people. He was into the masses. He believed that politics or attaining independence for Ghana would involve the masses, that is the ordinary people. Subsequently, there was a split-up, and Kwame Nkrumah went on to form the Convention People's Party on the 12th of June 1949 at Cape Coast. The aim or the focus of this political party was to attain independence for Ghana now. Their slogan was self-government now. Let's go back to our documentary and learn from it.
Ghana, we now have freedom.
Africa wants a freedom.
In August 1962, Kwame Nkrumah was returning from Upper Volta, present-day Burkina Faso. A grenade was concealed in a bouquet of flowers and given to a school pupil to present to him. It exploded.
It was at that point that the bomb was thrown. It caught him. The girl who was going to present the flower died on the spot. The fragments went into all his body from his nipple down.
Alhaji Suleimana Yeremia was detained during Kwame Nkrumah's regime. He was accused of being behind the bombing.
You in Ghana here just mentioned the bomb, and my name will be one. When you look at the trial, I was not alone. If it were you, what are you going to say? Do you take it or you leave it? At that point too, it was a matter of death. When you assign it to me, I would not accept it. But there is every indication that says that I was the one.
Ghana's economic condition started to get bleak. Cocoa, its primary export, had started experiencing a decline in the world market. Unemployment was on the rise. The state enterprises that were established soon collapsed and food prices increased.
At one time, we had the highest per capita income in Africa. Ghana, for the first time, was rationing soup, milk, and other things that we were buying at the Accra Sports Stadium. That was not befitting of Ghana.
Before the splitting up occurred in the UGCC, there was a major event that occurred in the then Gold Coast. And this event, known as the 1948 riot, is seen as a turning point in Ghana's quest for independence. The 1948 riot occurred because Ghanaians were fed up with European domination on our markets. There was an influx of European manufactured goods, coupled with high prices of these goods. Europeans and Lebanese traders had influxed our markets to the detriment of our people. This sparked up riots in major cities in Ghana, especially in Accra. And this riot was linked to the leadership of the then UGCC, leading to the arrest of the big Cs, including Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. This riot also led to the death of 3 ex-servicemen who were on a march or a protest march to demand for their remittance, which was promised them when they fought in the Second World War. So we had Sergeant Ajete, Corporal Atiku, and Private Odate Lamte dying to the gun. Upon the arrest of the big sis, as we have it, they were released and Kwame Nkrumah left the UGCC to form the CPP with their slogan as self-government now. In 1950, Kwame Nkrumah declared positive action in the then Gold Coast. This positive action aimed at adopting non-violent protests and strikes and non-cooperation with the British colonial authorities. The declaration of the positive action by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of the CPP led to the disruption of services in the Gold Coast, and this led to the arrest again of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. In 1951, the Gold Coast held its first general election, and even though Kwame Nkrumah was in prison, his party, the Convention People's Party, won majority of the seats. With this, Kwame Nkrumah was released from prison and he became the leader of government business, with his party having majority of the seats in parliament in the year 1951. In the year 1952, Kwame Nkrumah became the Prime Minister of the Gold Coast. During this period, the British were preparing the Gold Coast for independence. And from the year 1952 to 1957, Kwame Nkrumah acted or was the Prime Minister of the Gold Coast. Subsequently, on 6th of March 1957, the Gold Coast became an independent nation and adopted the name Ghana as its official name. In 1960, Ghana enacted the 1960 Constitution, and Ghana became a republic on the 1st of July 1960. Upon independence, Ghana saw significant and enormous development, economically. Upon the attainment of the Republican status in 1960, Kwame Nkrumah set out in driving the British out of our nation. And as some would say, this was something that went negatively against Ghana. And as I had already stated in my earlier submission, that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Kwame Nkrumah lived to give credence to this statement by Lord Atkin. In 1964, Ghana became a one-party state. What does this mean? When Ghana became a one-party state, democracy as we have it now, which involved the organization of regular elections to elect representatives to represent people, was done away with. The opposition in the nation Ghana in the 1960s were stifled with punitive enactments and laws. In 1958, Kwame Nkrumah, with the aid of government, of the legislature, and passed the Preventive Detentive Act. What was the aim of this act, known popularly as the PDA? The aim of this act was to arrest his political opponents. Kwame Nkrumah came to see his political opponents as security threats because they were opposing some of his measures and policies. Kwame Nkrumah, also as a Pan-Africanist, saw it prudent that African nations should come together and unite and offer one platform to the international world. He believed that if Africa could come together, they could stand against neo-colonialism. What is neo-colonialism? Neo-colonialism is a recolonialization of our European rulers. And Kwame Nkrumah thought it wise that if Africa could come together, we could present a united front to the international world. With this aim, he set on getting the African nations to come together. And this led to the formation of a union government with Guinea in 1958 and another union government with Mali in 1961. However, Kwame Nkrumah's unionization of Africa did not inure to the benefit of Ghana. Because Kwame Nkrumah was set on a unionization of Africa, he used all our resources to fund economic and political activities in other African states. This led to harsh economic policies pertaining in Ghana. And because Kwame Nkrumah was set on unionizing Ghana, he lost touch with realities in Ghana. The Ghanaian society, the Ghanaian people were suffering economically. They were not benefiting from independence as they thought they would. This is on the bad side of who Kwame Nkrumah is. On the positive side, we had Kwame Nkrumah bringing about a lot of infrastructure. We had a Tema motorway being constructed during his tenure. We had schools being added. We saw the establishment of the Ghana National College in Cape Coast. We saw the establishment of a university in Kumasi. That is the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So, this is what happened. Kwame Nkrumah, the radical, charismatic leader, ended up becoming power drunk, ended up becoming an autocratic, and was not open to any opposition whatsoever. With this, The other political parties thought it wise that it was time for Kwame Nkrumah to go. Though Kwame Nkrumah has had a vision for Ghana and had a vision for Africa, unfortunately, in 1966, on his way to Hanoi, his government was overthrown, and that ended the reign of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Nkrumah funded Guinea with £10 million from Ghana's coffers, making this the worst economic blunder of that time.
Guinea had to be told that they have support, and all Africa should know that we are together, that we should help each other. So to me, it wasn't the amount of money, a symbolic gesture of great import.
His efforts to rescue Guinea did not in any way repair his already damaged reputation with the people of Ghana. And what that meant was even the most trusted friend in his government could end up being a threat.
We cannot, under any circumstances, allow imperialists and new colonialists to interlock with traitors in our midst to deflect us from the path of duty and progress.
On the 21st of February 1966, President Kwame Nkrumah flew out of Accra on a plane bound for Hanoi, Vietnam. Ironically, he had gone on a peace mission, but in his own backyard, it was all but peaceful. 3 days later, on the morning of 24th February 1966, the self-proclaimed president for life, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, was ousted in a military coup.
The overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I had never seen such an explosion of joy.
We were in prison when we heard that Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown. Come and see in the prison. People were weeping because of joy. The prison was full. As for people who died there, oh, you cannot count them. But they were weeping when they heard Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown.
Thomas Sankara was a revolutionary socialist. He was born in the then Upper Volta, and his parents wanted him to be a Catholic priest. However, at the age of 20, he opted to join the military and then moved to Madagascar for military training. Upon his return in the 1980s, he realized that the Upper Volta was in a lot of political upheaval. There was a military takeover, and then there was a lot of strike from the public sector. He became an activist, realizing that there was a need for change in his nation. He was arrested many times for opposing the then sitting president by name Jean-Baptiste Ouedraogo. Subsequently, and we would say finally, on the 4th of August 1983, the president, that is Jean-Baptiste Ouedraogo, was overthrown in a bloodless coup d'etat led by Blaise Compaoré. Upon the military takeover led by Blaise Compaoré, a union government was formed and Thomas Sankara became its leader. Thomas Sankara was a Pan-Africanist. Ideologically, he was a revolutionary socialist. He was also a feminist, an advocate for the independence of women, and did this by electing more women to take up major roles in his cabinet. advocated that Africans should come together and oppose European domination. Also, he advocated that Africans should produce their own products, consume their own products, and also wear their own products. During his reign or his tenure as leader of Upper Volta, which later became Burkina Faso, and for the purposes of our study, Burkina Faso means the land of upright men. This was a man who was a revolutionist and wanted change. He advocated that Burkina Faso should produce its own products, cultivate its own food crops. So during his tenure as leader of Burkina Faso, he avoided cooperation from their colonial rulers, that is France, and avoided taking aid from France. During his tenure, he led the people to construct train tracks and also led his nation to construct streets, roads, major infrastructure. As a feminist, he also ended female genital mutilation, which was then at a prevalence in his nation. Also, as a revolutionary, and as a way of ending corruption in the public sector, upon his assumption as president or leader of Burkina Faso, he reduced the salaries of all the existing ministers, including his, and also changed the luxurious vehicles that were being used then, and gave them vehicles that cost less. Also, during his tenure and to ensure sanity in the nation, he publicly tried public officials who had been corrupted or who had been caught in bribery and corruption. However, during the trial of these corrupted or these public officials, he didn't allow them to get any legal representation. And that, I think, was not the best decision that Thomas Sankara took. The trial of these corrupted public officials took place publicly and was televised on national television. And these public officials went without legal representation, which was an affront to the rule of justice and also an infringement of their human rights. So, because Thomas Sankara advocated for self-sufficiency for the African and for Burkina Faso, and avoided relying heavily on their colonial masters, France, with the aid of Thomas Sankara's best friend, Blaise Compaoré, organized a military coup d'etat, and on October 15, 1987, Thomas Sankara was overthrown. He was killed in the process. Our next influential African leader is Jomo Kenyatta. Jomo Kenyatta was born in the year 1894. He had his first contact with the Europeans at the age of 10 when he fell ill and his parents took him to the Scottish Missionary Hospital for treatment. In August 1914, he led the confines of culture and went back to the Scottish mission to be trained. In 1922, after his training, Jomo Kenyatta joined the then East Africa Association, which was then led by Harry Tuku in Kenya. The aim of the East African Association was to advocate against the white settler-dominated government. So this is what pertained in the East African nation of Kenya. Upon the arrival of the British set out to dispossess the Kenyans of their land. So the British had a white settler government. This means that they brought their people from Britain to settle to rule the people of Kenya. And in the ruling of the people, they took away the land that belonged to the Kenyans and rather restricted the Kenyans to reservations that were established for them. In 1925, as a result of government pressures, the East African Association was disbanded. However, this group of disbanded association came together to form the Kikuyu Central Association. In 1928, Jomo Kenyatta became the General Secretary of the Kikuyu Central Association. When the British advocated for the unionization of the three African nations they were then ruling, that is Uganda, Kenya, and Tanganyika, which is now Tanzania, this Kikuyu Central Association, led by Jomo Kenyatta, protested against the idea. The KCA, as we have it, protested against the idea because they realized that with the unionization of these African states, they would lose their lands eventually. So, in the process, Jomo Kenyatta traveled to London and became a lobbyist. In London, he continued lobbying for Africans to take over the lands that were taken over by the British when they arrived in Kenya. He subsequently left London, England, to study economics at the London School of Economics. In September 1946, Jomo Kenyatta returned after his studies in London, and then he took on the leadership of the newly formed Kenya African Union. In 1952, the Mau Mau uprising led to the arrest of Jomo Kenyatta. As leader of the Kenyan African Union, the British government linked the uprising to the KCA, which was led by Jomo Kenyatta. The Mau Mau uprising was directed against the presence of European settlers in the Kikuyu-dominated settlements. So in 1953, Jomo Kenyatta was arrested and charged for sponsoring the Mau Mau movement. Jomo Kenyatta denied his association, and in fact, the Kenyan African Union had no association with the Mau Mau uprising. It happens to be a coincidence. So Jomo Kenyatta, the Kenyan freedom fighter, was arrested and charged for organizing and managing the Mau Mau uprising. And in 1953, he was sentenced to 7 years imprisonment. In 1961, Kenyan nationalists, the likes of Thomas Mboya and Oginga Odinga, formed the Kenyan African Union and elected Jomo Kenyatta as its leader. In 1961, Jomo Kenyatta was finally released from prison, and at the London Conference in 1962, he negotiated the constitutional process that led to the attainment of independence by Kenya. So on December 12, 1963, Kenya, led by Jomo Kenyatta, attained its independence from British colonialism. In 1964, Kenya, under the leadership of Jomo Kenyatta, became a one-party state. That same year, Jomo Kenyatta became a dictator. He set laws and policies that led to the arrest of political opponents or people who he deemed as security risks to his rulership. To forestall political or tribal opposition from other tribes, Jomo Kenyatta, however, elected representatives from other tribes to form his cabinet. Principally, Kenya enjoyed political stability under the leadership of Jomo Kenyatta. On the economic front, he advocated for individual ownership of property and rejected socialist calls for government and publicization of property in Kenya. He relied heavily on a free market economy and encouraged entrepreneurship in Kenya under his leadership. It is said that though Kenya prospered economically during the leadership of Jomo Kenyatta, it was his family that benefited, as the ordinary people in Kenya did not experience an increase in their economic status. Jomo Kenyatta died at Mombasa, Kenya in 1978. Ashafo Amoshayen, and Ewoyen Jumedi so Governance and Political Digest. Yashe Edikanfo a Omumodimbo, Eboa Omumai, Emo Mutiminya Fangudie, Efree Abrofuninsin. Niedi kind, Yashe Dr. Kwame Nkrumah a Odi Ghana Enimo Munya Fangudie. Yasanso Ashe Jomo Kenyatta a Onusu di Kenya Omaino Emo Munya Fangudie. Sanso na Yashe Thomas Sankara a Ofri Burkina Faso ni nyuma Odeya Bua Neman. Ewo muse edikanfo yi omo ye nioma bebrebo omumai. Nanso omo san ye njume bi ene nioma bi a emo omo ton sin ewo omo modin bom. Ene wo ye jumedie ni so no. Yesua dia a yebetimi aye na yanso yafa adisua die efri nie edikanfo yi ye. Nia yanso aye ba no megun aye ba no ensese yebeye ewo yamamu mu yebetimi esua free edikanfo yi ewo. Viewers, on today's episode of the Governance and Political Digest, we have taken a look about some of the influential African leaders. We learned about leadership, and we realized that leadership is about influence, and that this influence can be negative and positive. We had a look at Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who led Ghana to attain independence. We also took a look at Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso, and finally, we had a documentary on Jomo Kenyatta. These leaders were visionary leaders who influenced their nations to attain independence from European rule. However, these leaders also took some decisions that did not inure to their benefit. This is where time will permit us on today's episode of the Governance and Political Digest. See you